Welcome aboard Just Jets with your captain, Matt O'Leary. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary, back with episode number 53 of Just Jets. Excited to be here, have a lot to get into. We'll get to your voicemails as always. We'll talk about some teams that are interested in Sam Darnold, and we'll talk about some drama with Zach Wilson. But before we get started today, just wanted to talk to you about our sponsors over at Manscaped. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, so I hope you took care of yourself, but if you didn't, I got you hooked up with a promo code where you can check out some of their equipment that they have, like the Lawnmower 3.0. Maybe you want a little nice smelling cologne. You can get yourself that, or the Weed Whacker, pretty much anything from that site for 20% off. Use my promo code JETS20, 20% off and free shipping. Like I said, I use their products all the time. It's absolutely something to, get involved with if you want to. And I highly recommend. So JETS20 is the promo code for 20% off and free shipping. Hopefully you check that out and don't make that mistake again if you didn't take care of yourself on Valentine's Day. So with that housekeeping out of the way, let's jump right into this episode and talk about the three teams that have supposedly checked in on Sam Darnold. And no surprise here with the three teams. We'll start with the Colts, who they went the veteran route last year. And they had Phillip Rivers at quarterback, and he retired. So they are in a position where they're looking for a quarterback. And Sam Darnold is someone that is going to draw some interest on the market because teams are going to think they could fix him. And maybe they can. And the Colts would be one of those teams who are in a position. Could they offer 21? Some people think that they would offer their first-round pick. If not, they could potentially offer their second-round pick and be able to grab him. But that spot makes sense because the Colts are pretty much a win now roster outside of the quarterback. And they're not picking high enough to grab one of the key guys, and they probably don't have enough ammunition to go up and get one of the key early round quarterbacks from this year's draft class. So taking a shot on someone like Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz seems the route that they're going to go. And I would prefer to go the route of going Sam Darnold. He's younger, more cost effective. While Wentz did work with Frank Reich, I understand that. He trading for that cap hit is a little bit scary, and I think he might potentially cost more. So I'd rather go with the younger version of the reclamation project and have one more year of relatively cheap contract before I have to pay him. So for the Colts, that makes sense. Same kind of thing for Washington. Maybe they could draft Mac Jones where they're sitting. I'm personally not that big of a fan of Mac Jones. I think he's a quarterback that would probably go, I would pick him in the second round. I think he's a second round player, but I think he's going in the first round because, quarterbacks tend to fly early. I would prefer, if it was up to me and my options were Mac Jones or trade for Sam Darnold, I'm probably trading for Sam Darnold. And that too, that's a team with a tremendous defense. They have some nice pieces in McLaurin and Gibson. Like, this is a roster that's pretty solid outside the quarterback position. Alex Smith, we don't know how healthy he's going to be. Tyler Heineke, he only played that one game. He put up a decent performance against the Bucs, no doubt about it, but are you willing to bet on him going forward? And Dwayne Haskins, they already cut ties with, so they're probably looking for a quarterback of the future, and maybe Sam Darnold could be that for them. The one that would absolutely kill me is the Carolina Panthers, and I'll explain why. So they have the coach that I wanted the Jets to hire in 2018, or after the 2018 season with Matt Rule. Joe Brady, I love as an offensive coordinator. They have Robbie Anderson, a player that I love with the New York Jets. And if they were to trade for Sam Darnold and bring him in there and turn him into the top 15 quarterback that a lot of people expected him to be when he was drafted, that would absolutely kill me. So while I think that's a tremendous fit for Sam Darnold, I would probably like that one the least because it would just, watching Sam, Robbie, Rule, Brady all together and be successful that would eat me alive. That absolutely would. So I prefer trade him to the 49ers. Don't really have any love interest there with them. Trade him to Washington. The Colts, yeah, they're in the AFC. So if you want to say just an NFC team to get them out of our lives, the Bears, a team like that, then sure, yeah, I'm all for it. But the Panthers, with that one, I'm going to be quite honest with you. Maybe it's me being petty. I don't know what it is, but I'm just being honest, that one would bug me if it worked out there, because it'd be the what if game. What if the Jets just hired Rule and let him pick his staff and kept Robbie Anderson? And, if it worked down there in Carolina, then, oh my God. But I could also see the Panthers going with a quarterback in the draft. So maybe that one's not as likely as Washington and the Colts. I feel like where they're positioned in the draft isn't as good to get one of those top tier quarterbacks. But if I had to guess right now, Washington, Indianapolis, San Francisco, they all seem like potential landing spots for Sam Darnold. That much is for certain. And the second thing I wanted to get into in the opening monologue here was the Zach Wilson drama from the last couple of days. Oh my God. Was he a captain? Was he not a captain? Was he just on that leadership council, whatever they're calling it? Who cares? This time of year is just people overthinking and overreacting to the smallest things. Like, people so much off. They overthink these things, man. There's no reason to go this crazy and try to nitpick. Like, I feel like people do this with prospects all the time, really great prospects. Let's just use Wilson and Fields, for example. The Wilson won the 3-car garage thing, ridiculous. Whether he was a captain or not, like, there were games this year where he was wearing a C on his chest, so take that however you want. Supposedly the players love him, his teammates love him. I'm not worried about that. His competition of play, like, that's a legitimate take, but the idea that he grew up with a little bit of money, I don't think he could work in the NFL. Jeez. Or Justin Fields, he's a vegan, I don't know if that could work in the NFL. Like, what are we doing? We're just looking for reasons and overthinking things, and judging the prospects on what school they go to and all these things where it's just super nitpicky. It's like these NFL draft pundits are just looking for reasons to be critical when you could just say, hey, this guy's a really good prospect. And that's how I feel about the top 3, even to an extent Lance as well. Top 4 quarterback prospects in this draft. I think there's 3 who are likely going to go somewhere in the top 5 to 7 picks. Like, I would be absolutely stunned if one of Justin Fields or Zach Wilson makes it outside the top 7. I think they're going to go in the top 5. So, like, why are we overthinking this here? There's a reason why they're touted that highly. Like, it's so stupid, this drama and stuff like that, man. Who cares? If he wasn't necessarily listed as a team captain, does that make him undraftable? No. I understand you want to change the culture and leadership matters and stuff like that, but just looking for reasons not to take these players or to find fault with them, it's insane. It absolutely is. So I really did not care for the slander online, and we've seen it with Fields too. It's not just a Wilson thing. Like I said, prospects, all these great prospects, like, they're looking for reasons to be down on them when you can just say, hey, like, this guy's really damn good. And maybe you don't get that as much with Trevor Lawrence because he's the generational player, but just spin whatever you want to fit your narrative, I guess. That's what it really feels like. So with that, let's just get into the voicemails. We got a lot to get into. First voicemails, Nick in Georgia, who wants to talk about a Sam Darnold trade.
Hey, Matt. It's Nick from Georgia. First, I want to say congrats on a year of podcast. You've done a great job.
Thank you.
So for my question, it kind of dawned on me the other day. Now, maybe this is like totally not possible, and there was a reason for that I don't know about, but I'm just wondering, could we maybe call up a team and say, hey, do you want, we'll trade Sam Darnold for your second-round pick straight up, and then add a stipulation to that and say, if you sign Darnold long-term next year, or you exercise his fifth-year option, or some sort of like second contract, you can say, like, okay, in that case, you guys owe us your next year second, or next year first, or next year third, or whatever
right,
to just get extra compensation, just because, a little part of me is like, I'd love to get as much as we can, and I think it would be kind of benefit both teams, because if, they trade for Darnold, they don't like what they see in practice or on the field, and they cut him after a year because they don't want to exercise their option, okay, they give up a second, that's it, oh well for them. But if they like what they see, then maybe we can get a little extra trade compensation, especially if we're trading for Deshaun Watson. It'd be a great way to recoup some capital. So I don't know. Tell me what you think. Go Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that could absolutely happen. The most recent example of this, I'll give you a good one, is Leonard Williams. So the Jets traded Leo to the Giants for a third and a fifth, and that fifth could have turned into a fourth round pick if he re-signed last offseason with the New York Giants. So it's called a conditional pick. Absolutely. You can, make it, let's say it's a second, and then what'd you say, a second or a third for the extra pick if he signs that fifth-year option or is given a second contract. Yeah, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. I think it makes sense. You bring up a good point, Nick. If they're getting their quarterback in the future, it should probably cost more than a second. But if it's just a rental, then fine. Just, you take that flyer for a second on the 1 year and that's it. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Joe Douglas is looking for a conditional pick. I don't know if it's going to be as high as like a second or a third, but if you're telling me it's a second and a 5 and that 5 could turn into a 4 or a 3 if he re-signs, then okay, yeah, I could see something like that happen. Good question, Nick. That's a good thought process. I like it. Next up is Tim in Illinois. He wants to get into Deshaun Watson. Let's hear about him.
Hey, Matt. Tim from Illinois. Calling in a little bit on Deshaun. I know we've talked a lot about Deshaun Watson here over the last couple of weeks. It sounds like Houston's going to have a hard stand here, and I guess my question is, do you really believe Houston that they're going to make him sit out a year, or do you think it's just a hard play by them? It seems like, according to Shefty and some of them there, that when teams are calling, that they're not even taking the phone call, they're not answering it, or refuse to even talk about Watson. So I don't know. I think a lot of Jets fans and Dolphins fans and these guys got their hopes up, maybe a little bit for nothing, if they're going to make him hold out. So I just wondered what you thought.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt. Enjoy the show. Have a good one.
Thank you, Tim, for checking in. Really appreciate it. I would be surprised if they made him sit out the entire season. I don't think that's going to happen. I think one of two things is going to happen. Either he gets moved or they figure something out. I'd be very surprised if Deshaun Watson is not playing in the NFL in 2021 and just sitting out, and the Texans are just being stubborn and holding on to that contract. I don't think that makes too much sense. I do think, I don't think it's a lock that he's traded to the Jets. I don't think it's a lock that he's traded to Miami either. Are they the favorites? Yeah, it makes sense. But, maybe San Francisco comes in, maybe Carolina comes in. I know some people have soured on that one, but, there are teams that are going to be interested. And, I would think it's probably a good chance of him getting moved. Who that team is that's trading for him, I'm not quite sure. I'm not ready to say that. It depends on who offers what and what the packages are. So like I said, I'd be very surprised if they held on to him and made him sit out. I feel like it's either, okay, we work things out, you're going to stay and play, or, all right, this isn't going to work, so let's just trade you now. And I think I'm leaning more towards the latter, to be honest with you. So thanks for checking in, Tim. Let's get to Keith in Maine. He's got some questions on Robert Saleh. Come on.
Hi, my name's Keith. I'm a Jets fan up in Maine. I have a quick question for you. So, with Robert Saleh being hired, so he is a defensive-minded head coach, which I'm okay with. But what I'm wondering is, I know back in the late 90s and the mid to early 90s, we had the New York Sack Exchange.
80s.
I was wondering, how much do you think that the defense is going to improve? Because there's been a lot of talk about quarterbacks and how the offense is going to go, which I'm excited to see too. But I'm just wondering, how great is this defense going to be? Like, how much improvement do you think defensively we will see with like Quinn Williams and players like that? All right, thank you. Have a great day, and go Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we are going to see an improvement from this defense. It's hard to say, like, right now I'm going to be like, oh, this is a top 10 or top 15 defense. We don't know enough of the personnel yet to say that or make a broad statement like that. But I can tell you this, I definitely think a player like Quinn Williams would thrive because what Robert Saleh likes to do in his defense, like the defensive linemen could kind of pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. Whatever the Jets decide to do at edge, they are also going to thrive in this defense. No, they can't run it back with Jordan Jenkins, one, because he's not a 4-3 defensive end. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. So whether it's the draft, whether it's Huff, whether it's bring someone in free agency, I think we're going to see those guys do well. And something else I really want to watch, Bryce Hall, I think he has a legitimate chance to be a starter and a pretty damn good one next year. You still have to address corner in free agency in the draft as well. But Robert Saleh has had numerous times where he's been able to get a lot out of mid-round picks or later round picks or undrafted free agents. And that's something I'm excited about because where did the Jets grab Hall last year? The 4th round or the 5th round? I think it was the 5th round. But he's someone who probably, if he doesn't get hurt, he's probably a 2nd round pick last year. I had him mocked to like the 3rd round. And guys like Green Bean and Ryan, who I was on the Jets stream with, they were really high on Bryce Hall as well. And when he was sitting there for the Jets and they grabbed him, we were all really excited for it for that reason alone. And to put him with a player or a coach, rather, put that player with a coach who has a history of developing corners is really exciting. And on top of that, I'm usually not someone who loves the idea of signing older corners, but if you're telling me you can get Richard Sherman on a 1-year deal and help develop these younger guys, kind of like what the Jets did when they brought back Ty Law in 2008 and he helped groom Joel Rivas, not necessarily opposed to that. I can tell you that much for sure. So I definitely think this is going to be an improved unit. Good question, Keith. Next up, let's get to Chris on Long Island. He wants to talk about the 2021 season and how he's actually excited about it.
What's up, Matt? Chris from Long Island. Honestly, if we can get Deshaun Watson, that would be sick. But if we can't. But as a Jets fan, I'm kind of looking forward to next year. I don't know, just this feeling. No more Adam Gates is gone. This could be a good new year. You never know. As always, gangrene, baby.
Love it. Love that kind of enthusiasm. And you should be excited. They have a legitimate head coach for the first time in a long time. They do. There's no reason why you should go into this year and expect similar results. This is not going to be a 2-14 team next year. They're not. They have a ton of free agency. They have a ton of draft capital. They are going to be able to make some changes to their roster. And even in the quote-unquote worst-case scenario to a lot of people, which would be running it back with Sam, the kind of offense that they could run could make Sam Darnold serviceable. And maybe he does take that leap to the top 15. Would not be my preferred plan because I think that's risky when you can get a top-tier quarterback with a number 2 pick and have them on a cheap contract for the next 4 years, or when you could invest in a 25-year-old franchise quarterback via trade. Those are my preferred options. But yeah, the Jets have a legitimate offensive coordinator. They have a pass game coordinator, a run game coordinator, an offensive line coach, a quarterback coach. Like, there's just so many different minds in here. And Saleh's staff looks really good on paper. We'll see how that plays out. I don't know about you guys. I trust Joe Douglas. I think he's done a good job. Have there been misses? Yes. I still don't like the James Morgan pick. I think it was a mistake to let Robbie Anderson walk. But for the most part, I think Douglas has done a really good job, especially in the NFL draft. So with all the draft assets they have coming up, this is a huge test. So we'll see what they end up doing, but there is a reason to be excited about the 2021 team. Even if they end up going, let's just throw a number out there. Like if they go 7-9, but show a legitimate step forward, that would be more exciting than the 2019 7-9, which everyone with half a brain was saying was a fraudulent year because they finished 6-2 on the back of strong defense, and their offense was absolutely awful. They overachieved down the stretch. They started out, like 1-8, something crazy like that. They were awful to start the year. Came on strong. It was really an unbelievable finish, and a rare finish. But even if they take a baby step forward and go from 2-14 up to 6-10, 7-9, there's a path where that could be successful. They could, even under circumstances, be even better than a 6-10 or 7-9 team, depending on what they do in free agency. And remember, Jets coaches usually do well and usually overachieve their first year as head coach. Adam Gase, he went 7-9 on a team that, I mean, you looked at that roster the first half of the year, they looked like they were going to go 3-13. Todd Bowles went 10-6. Rex Ryan was in the AFC Championship game his first year. Eric Mangini took a team that looked like it wasn't going to be that good and made the playoffs. Herm Edwards had some success in 2001, his first year. Al Garo, what did you go 8-8 in 2000? They were okay. And then Bill Parcells, I mean, they didn't make the playoffs that first year, but they really turned it around from 96 to 97. So something to keep an eye on for sure. Next up, Brandon on Long Island. He's got some takes on Sam Darnold.
Hi, this is Brandon from Long Island. Didn't really have a question last week, so I didn't call in. So I'm looking at Bleacher Report right now, and I think that they're just smoking some funny stuff over here. They say that the Jets should trade Sam Darnold to San Francisco for Jimmy Garoppolo and a 5th-round pick. My question is, first of all, what plan are they on that they're going to get that for Sam Darnold? And second of all, would you do it? Would you want Jimmy Garoppolo?
No.
For that price? Or just in general? All right, have a good one.
No, I really don't have any interest in Jimmy Garoppolo with all the different routes that Jets could go. Jimmy G's basically a higher ceiling version of what Sam Darnold is, I guess. No, I don't want to trade for Jimmy G. If you're trading Sam Darnold, give me a draft pick and help me build out this roster, and then I'm taking a quarterback at 2. Or I'm using those assets and trading for Deshaun Watson. I really don't want Jimmy G. And I'm pretty sure that's what you're hinting at as well, Brandon. I think that would be a massive mistake. Ben from New Jersey is up next. He wants to talk Russell Wilson and some drama going on in Seattle.
What's up, Matt? It's Ben from Jersey. So there recently has been some news that Russell Wilson is concerned with his position with the Seattle Seahawks and not investing in the offensive line enough. There's a reason for that. He's been sacked more than any other quarterback since he came into the league. I'm not saying that the Jets should go after him or will go after him. First of all, I don't think that it makes sense for the Seahawks to trade him to us, considering we have the first. And Russell Wilson's 32 years old. And I feel like he doesn't really fit our window to a window of where we're at right now. I feel like if he goes to a team that wants to win now, like the Colts, even the Washington football team, that would be a better destination.
I agree with that.
But imagine if Russell Wilson does indeed get traded from the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think it'll happen. There's probably a 10% chance of this happening, maybe less. But oh man, if the Seahawks decide to move on from him,
I like where this is going.
That's a 5 to 6 win team at the most without Wilson. That team is not good without him. No DK Metcalf being compared to Megatron without him. Tyler Lockett is just another fast guy without him. And if he gets traded, I guarantee that pick's going to be top 12, the Seattle pick. And Jamal Adams. If Jamal has to play with a bad team, I would just love to see that look on his face when Wilson gets traded and the Seahawks go 5-11 without him.
That'd be fun.
And say we get Watson, we can be where that Seattle pick is currently right now in the 20s, maybe even later. And the Seahawks can be in the top 10. So again, I don't really want to trade for Wilson, but if Wilson does indeed get traded, that's just going to be another just big W for the Jets this offseason.
You're not wrong.
And it's only going to help speed up their rebuild. And it'll just make things a lot better. Let me know what you think. Do you want Russell Wilson on the Jets? Because I'm not really a huge fan. I don't think it's going to happen. Do you think Wilson will even get traded? If so, to where? And let me know your thoughts about everything. And as always, go Jets.
Yeah, this would be huge, and thank you, Ben, for checking in with us. If Russell Wilson gets traded, and even if it's not to the Jets, and I don't think it makes sense for him to come to the Jets because he's going to be He's 32, going to be 33 soon. He probably has another 5 to 7, maybe more, really good years left, and he's costing a lot of money right now, so it's a completely different scenario than trading for someone like Deshaun Watson. It is. He's... if you're a win now team, sure, go out and get Russell Wilson. If you're, the Patriots who think a quarterback away from turning it around, go out and get Russell Wilson. No, I don't want them to because that would kill the Jets, but I'm just saying that seems more of a fit than what the Jets are. But let's just say they move him for whatever reason. That is tremendous for the Jets because, as Ben said, that's probably a 5-win team. Let's say, who's their backup? Geno Smith? If he starts, what do you think that team is? 4-12, 5-11, something like that? If they... let's say they trade him to the Colts and you get pick 21. Taking Mac Jones at 21, Kyle Trask at 21. You think he steps right in and that's going to be a, playoff team? I don't buy that for a second. So that would be huge for the Jets because they could potentially, let's use the 7-9 for an example. If the Jets go 7-9 and Seattle goes 5-11, if they trade Russell Wilson, that's probably 2 top 15 picks. That would be massive for this rebuild. That would be absolutely huge. So I'm with Ben. That would be tremendous. I don't think he gets traded. I feel like these kinds of rumors come around every once in a while, but I would be absolutely stunned if Seattle moves on from Russell Wilson. He's not the issue. He absolutely is not. To Cali we go. Let's check in with Jeff.
Hey, Matt. Jeff from Cali. So something really quick that just popped up that I kind of wanted to get your opinion on, and I think this would be amazing. So U Stadium was reporting that the Colts, the Panthers, and the Washington football team are all interested in Sam Darnold. Now, we all knew, Washington football team and Indianapolis had interest in Darnold, but having the Panthers interested in Sam Darnold is huge for two reasons. Number one, number 8 overall. That's a huge pick to give up, right?
Yes.
Now, you're not getting Darnold for number 8 overall. Like, let's not be crazy.
Agree.
But Carolina is probably the only team that really scares me in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. So if we can snag somehow, okay, if you can give, say, Sam Darnold plus maybe number 66,
that's going to be
and then maybe
more.
like another late round pick, like a 7th, or I don't think we have a 7th, but like a 6th, for number 8, that would be absolutely huge. Give me your takes if that's even possible, if you think it's reasonable. But yeah, I thought that was awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I like this idea a lot, Jeff. It's an outside-the-box thought, so let's talk about it. So using Draft Tech, the value of the 8th overall pick is $1,400 on the NFL trade value chart. Where the Jets are at 23 is $760. So if you're telling me 23 and Sam Darnold to get up to 8, that's probably a little bit likely. And then for you, that would be picks 2, 8, 34. So you're essentially turning 23 into 8 by moving on from your quarterback. And in that position, like, holy smokes, that could be, Justin Fields / Zach Wilson and Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, maybe one of Jamar Chase or Devonta Smith. I think they're both probably gone by at that point. But you could do significant damage and give your young quarterback a weapon, a high caliber one at 8. Now that's interesting. I would like that a lot. That would definitely lessen the burden of having to trade Sam Darnold out to Carolina. So I very much so like that thought process, Jeff. Next up is Bill from Florida. He was not happy about my Deshaun Watson take. Let's hear from him.
Matt, are you serious? I mean, get real for once. I'm Bill from Florida, and
Hi, Bill.
I just have to nitpick at what you said. You said if the Jets made no changes and just got Deshaun Watson, they'd win 8 games. Deshaun Watson with a better team in Houston only won 4, all right? Yet Larry Tunsil, one of the best linemen in the league, he also had 2 pretty good wide receivers.
Huh.
All right. True, they traded one, but still, how does he go with a 2-14 team when he could only win 4 in Houston, who had a better team with the same old Jets? Get real.
Oh, boy. All right, let's dissect this. Chad Hansen played 5 games for Houston last year. Is Jamison Crowder a good wide receiver? I would say yes. Is Denzel Mims a good wide receiver? I would say yes. Is Brashad Perriman with a quarterback that could throw the ball down the field? Deshaun Watson had 16 touchdown passes of 20 yards or more. I think Brashad Perriman's involved a little bit more in the offense. So that's right off the top. Also, their offense was not the reason why they were losing games last year. The reason why they went 4-12 is because they were a toxic organization and their defense stunk. Last year, let's say we swap Sam Darnold / Joe Flacco for Deshaun Watson. Even swap, same roster, nothing else. Do they lose to Denver on Thursday Night Football? I say no. I don't think you lose to a fourth-string quarterback if Deshaun Watson's playing football? Do they lose 18-10 to Buffalo at home? I don't think they scored 10 points. I think they beat Buffalo. Do they lose on a late second field goal to New England? A game that Joe Flacco, yeah, he looked really good and threw a bunch of touchdown passes, but had a brutal interception where it was basically a punt and gave them an extra possession. That's 3. Do they lose to the Chargers? A game where Joe Flacco had an ugly pick 6. I don't think so. Do they lose to the Raiders? A game where Sam Darnold started out looking good, but then had a couple of mistakes later in the game? Yeah, I know the defense made a terrible play at the end, but they're probably not in that position to blow the game in the last seconds anyway. The Raiders basically gift wrapped that game for the Jets, and they said no thank you. That's another one. Oh, and how about the Patriots in Week 17 of the season? And Sam Darnold had an absolute meltdown in the second half of that game. Do they lose that one? So that's 6 right there. That brings you from 2 to 8. Right off the top, right there. I think you're significantly minimizing just how bad the Jets quarterback play was last year and how if just a little things changed that they probably win 8 games, even if Adam Gase is the coach. That's how good Deshaun Watson is. So I've never been more serious about anything, to be quite honest with you, Bill. Matt in New Jersey is up next. Let's talk about Sam Darnold.
Hey, Matt. It's Matt from New Jersey. Just wanted to call in and get your thoughts on what we could do if we ended up going through with the San Francisco trade that's going around on the internet, where we would swap firsts.
I like this one.
Stuff. I'm focusing on the 12th round pick. Where do you think we go with that pick? So I think if Quiddy Pay is still on the board, definitely think we should pick him. Great edge rusher. Jalen Waddle might still be there. But I'm thinking about Micah Parsons. I think he's a great player. I don't think linebacker is our biggest need right now, but I think TJ Mosley's getting up there, and we could use some outside linebacker help. So let me know what you think. Love your shows. You want me to go work.
Thank you, Matt. I really don't think you could tell me on taking a linebacker in that spot. Micah Parsons might be great, but to me, this is an easy choice of wide receiver, tight end, corner, edge, maybe interior offensive line at that point. I would be upset if linebacker's the pick. The only positions rather on defense that I'd be okay with taking in that spot is corner and edge. Maybe Patrick Surtain is there. Oh my God. Or Caleb Farley is there. That'd be great. Maybe you can grab a nice edge there, like you mentioned, Quiddy Pay. I'm not super high on Quiddy Pay, but maybe there's another guy sitting there. Those are really the only positions that I would feel comfortable with going that early. If you want to tell me that you grab a linebacker in round 3 or 4, okay. You can sell me on that. I just think with the amount of needs on this team at premium positions, like can't use a top 12 pick on a non-premium position or a position that wouldn't help the young quarterback. That's my take on it. I understand he's a great player, and I don't hate that thought process. I just can't get myself behind it. That's just me. Last, Cosmo in New Jersey wants to talk Trevor Lawrence. Let's hear from Cosmo.
Hi, Matt. Love the show.
Thank you.
Cosmo from Belmar, New Jersey. Calling in reference to wondering if everybody is ready to trade the world for Deshaun Watson, 4 picks, and a defensive player, Quinnen Williams, all the crazy things they're talking about, for 4+ draft picks. Why aren't we just giving up 2 first-round draft picks just to switch places with the Jags and end up getting Trevor Lawrence after all this? You know, finally, all the screaming that winning games cost us them. Why not just give up 2 draft picks and switch spots? They probably would get the guy they wanted anyway and get 2 draft picks out of it. And,
they're taking Lawrence, man.
Quarterback we wanted. What do you think of that? Thank you.
There's no way Jacksonville's moving out of 1. They're going to take Trevor Lawrence. So I don't see this as a likely scenario. And it would take more than 2, just, pick 2 and 23 to get up there. As far as it goes with Deshaun, I don't think it's going to take 4 first rounds and a defensive player like Quinnen Williams. I really don't. I think 3 first-round picks is what it's going to end up being. And if you're a team like the Jets who have 4 over the next 2 years, 5 over the next 3 years, then they're probably one of the few teams that can get away with it. So, sorry, Cosmo, I don't think the Jaguars are trading out of one. So that's going to do it for episode 53. Thanks so much for riding with me. Subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Really appreciate all the love and support. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll talk to you next time.